All right, today we're jumping into this really fascinating new report from MIT, and it uncovers a huge problem in the AI world. Companies are pouring billions into generative AI, but for most of them, they're getting absolutely nothing back. So let's figure out what's going on.
Okay, let's kick this off with the single most shocking number from the entire report. Get ready for this. 95%. That's the percentage of organizations seeing zero, I mean literally zero return on their Gen AI investments. That's almost a total failure rate. It's just insane when you think about all the hype out there.
So you've got this massive gap, right, between this tiny group of companies that are absolutely crushing it with AI and, well, pretty much everyone else who's failing. The report actually gives it a name, the GenAI Divide. And that's what we're going to break down today. What separates the winners from the losers and, what it takes to get on the right side of that line. So what does it feel like to be on the wrong side of this thing? Well, it's a story we've seen before. Tons of hype, a lot of money spent, but in the end, not much actually changes. Let's dig into what that looks like on the ground. What's really interesting is that this whole AI revolution, it's been super uneven. I mean, look at this. The report has this disruption index, and basically only two sectors, tech and media, are showing any real deep changes. For everyone else, all 7 other sectors, finance, healthcare, you name it, the impact is barely a blip on the radar.
And this quote, man, it just nails the feeling perfectly. This COO from a manufacturing firm says, "The hype on LinkedIn says everything has changed, but in our operations, nothing fundamental has shifted." I mean, that just sums it all up, right? It's this huge gap between what you see on social media and what's actually happening day to day. For most companies, AI just hasn't changed a thing.
Okay, so why? Why is this happening? Well, if you follow the life of a typical AI project, you find this giant pit. The report calls it the pilot to production chasm, and it's basically where good ideas and expensive AI projects go to die.
And look, we're not talking about people just messing around with ChatGPT here. Companies are spending big bucks on custom-built, enterprise-level AI systems, the kind that are supposed to handle really specific, really important jobs.
And hey, they're definitely giving it a shot. About 60% of these custom tools actually get to the pilot stage, which, sounds pretty promising. You think, okay, we're on the right track, but, and this is a big but, here's that chasm we were talking about. Only 5%, 5 make it all the way to full production. Just let that sink in for a second. That means 95% of these super expensive custom-designed projects just die. They never actually get used. So a big piece of the puzzle is just following the money. Look at this. A full half of all the investment is going into sales and marketing. The flashy stuff where it's easy to show some simple charts. But meanwhile, the really valuable high-impact stuff in the back office, operations, finance, it's just not getting the funding it needs. But here's the real kicker. This massive failure rate, it's not because the AI models are bad. It's not because companies don't have enough data. Nope. The real reason is something way more fundamental, something that almost all of these AI tools are completely missing. So if the tech isn't the problem, then what is? What's the real barrier here? Why are employees basically rejecting these super expensive tools that are supposed to help them? Well, this chart tells you everything you need to know. The researchers ask professionals a simple question. For a complex, important project, who do you trust more? And the answer was just overwhelming. By a 9-to-1 margin, they trusted a junior human colleague over an AI tool. But why is that? It's because that junior colleague learns. Most of these AI tools, they're basically static. They've got amnesia. They don't remember what you told them yesterday. They don't adapt when you give them feedback. They don't learn your workflow. Every single time you use them, it's like starting over from square one. And for any serious, complex work, that's just useless. That's the learning gap. All right, enough about all the problems. Let's talk about the winners. What about that 5% that's actually getting it right? What are they doing that everyone else isn't? Let's get into the playbook for how to actually cross this divide. And the data on this is just crystal clear. Trying to build everything yourself, it's twice as likely to fail. The companies that are actually winning are the ones partnering up with outside experts. When they co-develop solutions with vendors who know what they're doing, their success rate shoots up to 66%. That's double the success of going it alone. And really, this all boils down to a totally different way of thinking. The winners aren't acting like they're just buying software. They're acting more like they're hiring a BPO firm. So instead of buying some off-the-shelf tool, they're demanding a deeply customized solution. Instead of locking AI away in some innovation lab, they're putting it in the hands of their frontline managers.
And maybe most important of all, they stop caring about software benchmarks and start caring about actual business results.
And when they get this right, the payoff is massive. But here's the surprising part. The big wins aren't coming from laying people off. They're coming from cutting way back on expensive external contracts. We're talking millions of dollars saved by replacing BPO contracts, slashing marketing agency fees, and bringing complex stuff like risk checks back inside the company. It's a huge shift.
Okay, so where does this all lead? What's next? Well, according to the report, we are right on the edge of a completely new phase of AI, one that goes way beyond the simple chatbots we're used to and into something, well, something truly autonomous.
The future they're talking about isn't just about tools that can learn. It's about building what they call the Agentic Web. Now just imagine a whole network of smart AI agents that are out there working for you. They can find other agents, negotiate deals, and coordinate complex tasks with each other, all without a human having to step in. I mean, that's the next frontier, right there.
But here's the thing. The window to make this leap is closing, and it's closing fast. This quote from a CIO really says it all. He says that once they've spent the time training a system on their specific workflows, the cost to switch to something else becomes insane. It creates this huge sticky advantage for the companies that get there first.
And that really leaves us with one last big question for you to think about. This GenAI divide, it's real, but it's not impossible to cross. So you have to ask yourself, is your organization building the bridges to get across, or are you just stuck on the wrong side watching everyone else pull away?